I couldn't be more excited to bring you this interview right here. I know he's smiling, and I'm like, yes, I'm like fangirling over here. He doesn't know that yet, but he'll know that at the end of this interview. One of the books that I've read was Nick's book, The Golden Handoff. And when I read it, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally like the speed to the real estate business. Like, if you have not read his book, well, first up, if you're a Business Builder Box subscriber, you have it literally in your box this month. We have ordered so many copies. Everybody gets one, which is awesome. But the other part is when I read the book, I was just having light bulb moments left and right. And we're going to talk about that today because this is all about growing your business exponentially in a very, very legitimate way that most agents do not even think about when they get into the business. So it's so like right in front of you that after you read the book, you're like, why didn't I think about that? So I am really excited for everybody to get to know you, your methodology, your strategy, and start implementing it. And I told you before I hit record, I have a very, very like self-motivating reason because I've read it years ago and I still haven't done anything. And I'm like, okay, I need to kick my booty. And I have all the intention to make this the year I'm going to implement it. So Nick, welcome. Why don't you introduce yourself real quick and then we're going to dive into some questions.
Awesome. Well, so I'm Nick Krautter, and I'm the author of the book, The Golden Handoff, as Janine mentioned. And more importantly, I'm a real realtor. I got into the real estate business in 2006 in Portland, Oregon, and eventually built a team that, when we were at our biggest, we had 12 people on the team. Before that scares you, the Golden Handoff works whether you're a solo agent or you've got a team or you run your own company or you're part of a different brokerage. So it really works to the scale you want it to, which is really cool. I ended up writing the book because during the Great Recession, so 2010, I bought my first business. So I had been in the business 4 years. And I was taught two things early on that seemed to be kind of in conflict. One was always think about growth, but the other was work by referral. And I think if you ask anyone, they would say, of course, they want to work by referral exclusively if you could, right? Because you're not competing, you're not selling yourself, you're not buying leads, you're not paying for advertising. You just take care of people, and then they introduce you to people they know, and if you do a good job, it kind of grows. And so I started out with all of that intention to do that, but I didn't know enough people. I was new to Portland. I was new to real estate, and I knew, I think, 5 people when I moved there. And so I did a lot of other stuff. I did a ton of open houses, and I did a lot of other prospecting and marketing to grow my business because, referrals could account for a handful of deals, but not what I was trying to do. So fast forward into 2010, the Great Recession had a lot of really good agents getting out of the business. And I think there are a lot of forces in play right now that are recreating that same opportunity for people like you, Janine, and the subscribers to your box that are looking to grow their business and to keep investing in that. The difficult times create the opportunities. And so what happened was not only were rookies and new people and people that didn't work very hard at real estate start getting out of the business during the recession, but really good agents also got out of the business for different reasons. And so I bought my first business in 2010. In the book, if you're reading it, Renee, who's one of the characters, the 3 characters in the book are all real. Those are people that I helped, and they're very different. And so Renee was the first person I started working with, and I didn't have a model or a plan. I basically knew she was transitioning back to like a corporate job. And I said, I would love to help her clients. And like a lot of people in real estate, she's very big-hearted, and she had another broker in the office who was struggling. And she thought it would be better to have him work on the business because he had, more time than me, because I was busy and I was kind of up and coming and growing my team. Well, after 6 months, he didn't put in the work. He didn't call people. He wasn't able to really, have confidence going into a listing presentation or a buyer consultation. So Renee kept getting called back into meetings to meet with people because, he wasn't sure of himself. And so she had to come in and try to, win the relationship again. And now she's doing 2 jobs and she's trying to raise a family. And so this isn't working for her. So after 6 months, she came back to me and said, okay, I should have hired you. You were right. Do you think it's too late? Because I already announced 6 months ago that I'm working with this other guy. And I said, well, here's the good news. Most people move every 10 years. And when they're not actively looking to buy or sell, they don't really think about us that much. As scary as that might sound to all the listeners, we have to kind of quietly wave our hand over here like, hey, I'm still a realtor. I'm still in business. I'm still here for your referrals. Because honestly, when people are not needing you, they've got other stuff they're thinking about. They're thinking of their school and their career and their trips and vacations and their own life. So we basically put together an announcement and an endorsement plan. So to make this as simple as possible, please read the book. There's no secret hidden chapter. You don't need anything that isn't in the book to execute on it. The whole roadmap is there for you. And on goldenhandoff.com too, I would encourage all of your box subscribers to sign in on that. Put in your name and email. You'll only get information about the Golden Handoff, but what you get immediately is access to the contract, scripts, dialogues, marketing pieces that you can edit and use. So to make it easy for people like you, Janine, to basically get a head start in the process without having to recreate any of that.
Okay, so let me dive into a couple things, because
Yeah.
obviously, you're already diving into like the pain points of Renee, who had to juggle 2 jobs, right? Who
Yeah.
was, pain point, right? At the end of the day, that's where people take action. You see the pain point, and you're like, hey, this, I can help. And I think the misconception is out there when people are looking to figure out, what do I do with my business? They try to think about the guy that's not busy or the gal that's not busy, because they think maybe that person might be a better, paying attention to my clients. Whereas a busier agent, they're like, oh, I don't know if they're going to take this serious. And it's like, it might be the busier agent that actually has the systems, tools, and processes in place to serve these people. So while we're on it, I'm a geek on systems, and processes and all of that good stuff. Let's do the conversation twofold. If I wanted to retire and I wanted to give you my business, what would you want to see in my business? Because I can't just hand you notepads and, post-it notes and be like, here you go, enjoy, and you're going to be very happy with that. So what do you want to see on a handoff, on a retirement plan perspective, first and foremost?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, this became very real for me when I started building a team, and I couldn't just keep everything in my own head. So we had to start using a database, and we had to start writing down notes of every call, conversation, share, be able to share emails and things like that, so that when I handed off a client within the team, they were able to know who they were and what they needed and see the history of what we had already done together, because different people would be responsible for different parts. So the number one thing is having and maintaining a database where you have everyone's information. I know this sounds very basic, but most realtors don't do it. And there are some systems and tools out there that will help you kind of aggregate that information and put it in one spot. And those systems or tools are constantly changing. I used a system called Contactually, and there's another one called Close that are good at doing that. And what they need to be able to do is basically, take your contacts in your phone and your Google contacts and your social media contacts, and put that into one spot so you can organize it if you don't have that. But the number one thing you can do is, number one, make sure you have all the information of the clients you've actually helped and all the information of the people that have referred you business. So if you're hearing this and panicking that you have nothing started, that's really the most important thing. And if you've been doing this for 30 years, you need to think of your top 100 clients. Just start with that. Don't worry about the thousands and thousands of people you've helped over your career, because if you stop talking to someone you helped 30 years ago, they're probably not really thinking of you as their agent anyway. So to think of your core A people in your world, in your database, is important. And then to make sure you have the right information. And then the next step is the way that the Golden Handoff works is just, Janine, if you were going to hand me your business, is that you have a strong enough relationship and you have trust equity with your people, so that when you endorse me as your adopting agent, that not only are your clients really, really happy, they don't have to go interview other agents, but they don't want to. They want to just work with who you refer. The same way that when you refer a home inspector or a lender, I know a lot of people want to refer 2 or 3 people because they're worried about liability, but clients don't want that. They want, like, I just want the best person. Don't give me 5 people. I don't want to have to go interview 5 lenders and 5 title companies and 5 home inspectors. And I get different places have different liability rules, but your clients at the end of the day, regardless of what you want to do to cover your butt, just want to know who's the best person for the job. Try to make it easy for me. So that's really it. Is if you're going to ask me to take over a relationship with your clients, I need to know who they are, and I need to know how to call them and email them, and I need them to hear from you on that process, that I'm the person that's now going to be there for them for those questions and needs, whether that's a referral for a roofer or whether they need to buy a bunch of investment properties or they need to relocate.
Absolutely. And then the other part with it is it's not a, oh, here you go ahead and have fun with it. It's like side-by-side process. And then at a certain point, the referring person, so if I'm the one retiring and I'm going to
Yeah.
give you my business, I'm at a certain point going to stop marketing as heavily. And it's going to be really like having you send, and like, it's not a, oh, tomorrow it's going to be you 100%. I mean, it's gradual over, from what I remember, it was about a close to 2-year period if you can get it there, right? To just really constant exposure for a really good handoff. But then if
Yes.
you,
Yeah.
right?
In terms of the timing, there's really kind of two pieces. Um, I would love if every retired agent was on board with co-marketing for a longer period of time. Um, Most of the time when you've identified someone that you think is a really good opportunity to help out as a retiring agent they're starting to phase out, right? They're starting to slow down and do less and less. And what that means is they're saying no to a lot of clients, either because they're actively not helping those people or they're just not marketing and trying to grow. And so maybe their A+ people are still working with them, but all of the other clients that they could have been working with are now working with other agents. And so there isn't a set time frame. I would say that the bigger the business and the more clients there are, you want to budget more time. But many of times the handoff is fairly quick. So the retiring agent makes an announcement to their client. So we have a letter, an announcement letter, which goes out in the mail and also in an email. And subsequently too, I think, using social media and using video and video through email is a really good way to try to meet your clients where they are, as opposed to, because tons of people, we get so many emails, people don't read it, if they even get it in their inbox now. I mean, there's so many different filters, it's hard to even get an email to someone. I have clients where they can't even get emails from us, and they're trying to save me to the safe list and all these things. And so yeah, you don't want it just to be, here's the database and randomly I start calling people. There's a process and there's a sequence of events that is not complicated, but you want to do it in the right order. And it starts with you, Janine, as the retiring agent, letting your clients know, hey, I'm retiring, and either you're available or you're not, or you're going to be available in a certain way. And I think this is the thing that I'm so excited about talking to you today, because one of the biggest opportunities I think now is what I'm calling a partial handoff. And so the new edition of the Golden Handoff is coming out soon. You actually got the last 2 cases of the original print run. So keep those books, because they're never going to be available again in a couple of months. Because there's a second edition, which we will be emailing the new chapter to Janine to share with you guys. So you guys aren't missing out on this. It's being edited right now. And the partial handoff is basically, I mentioned the agent that's phasing out, and maybe they were doing 20 million a year, but now they're doing 5. It's all the different ways you can work with that person on a longer period of time. So as opposed to a shorter announcement to a handoff, whether that's a couple months or a year, maybe working together for 3, 4, 5 years, maybe longer, where that retiring agent can then be on your team or work with you as a partner and only work on the stuff they want. And then everything they don't want to work on, you get to help on, and they get referral fees. And so that to me is really a huge opportunity. I think it's way bigger than the original opportunity, which, that had my business go from 10 million in sales a year to over 100 million in sales, and working still high 70% by referral. And it worked so well that my limiting factor for my business was not clients, it was agents. I didn't have enough agents to help those clients. And that was really the issue.
That's a great issue to have. I mean,
Yeah.
too many clients, not enough agents, right? So identifying a golden opportunity. Let's
Yeah.
start there. So the agent that was doing 20 million, now doing 5 million, right? The phasing out agent. Are there a couple things where you say, you know what, in order for you to identify a golden opportunity, here are a couple, things to look for. Obviously, we know the top producers, the heavy hitters, right? Having conversations with your managers or with your broker owners or whoever in your marketplace, saying like, hey, if I say top producer in insert your city, whatever it is, who comes to mind, right? Who is the agent that you've always like seen and you want to start building a relationship there, having conversations. So that's an easy one, right? Age might obviously be an identifying factor. And then, yes, the golden opportunity right now, especially for people that have been in the business a long time. I don't know if IDFPR lets you, well, we have IDFPR, Illinois. Obviously, your licensing board, wherever state you are, lets you look up when somebody got licensed and maybe look for people that got licensed in the, 80s, 90s.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, look for, again, agents that have been in the business for a long, long time. And then the question is, okay, are they going to be embracing this change we're about to go through? Or are they just going to say, done, I am done, right?
Yeah.
So I think, what other opportunities? Did I miss anything? Do you have other ones?
Yeah, there's a whole chapter on how to find retiring agents. And I think that the number one thing to do is to go to your broker or team leader and tell them you're interested in helping people who are looking to slow down or exit the business or relocate. I think with COVID, a ton of people decided to relocate, even within real estate. I think we saw a lot more people get licensed in multiple states that aren't adjacent. You have people like I know a good friend of mine, Rhode Island and Florida, not next to each other. But a lot of those clients, go back and forth. Same thing. I'm in Southern California. There's a lot of Oregon, Washington, and California or Arizona because people go back and forth because of the seasons. And so I think that you want to look for a couple of things. I think people tend to want to go and look at who's been licensed the longest or who's oldest. That's still very valid. And I think a lot of those people want to retire and they don't know how. And so simply approaching people and saying, I really admire your business. You've been doing this for a really long time. I'm curious, what are your plans when you're done selling? Just asking that question, because most of them do not have a plan.
And then coming over to them and saying, hey, by the way, I have a plan. Can I share it with you?
Yeah.
You just took a huge part out of this overthinking that people do.
Yeah. And I think that they don't know what to do and they think it's going to be really hard or complicated. And the thing is, the golden handoff is very simple because it's built around a referral agreement. And that's something all realtors understand. They understand the value both ways. And so, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold right now. So hopefully I'll be okay. But I think that's where the partial handoff is such a huge opportunity because it doesn't force the retiring agent to pick a day and say, I'm going to be 100% done. Because a lot of people are scared of losing that income stream. And beyond just that, I think if you've been doing anything for 30 years, especially real estate where you're self-employed, I think it's a huge part of your identity. And so it isn't just about the money and it isn't just about the fear factor of what if this adopted agent doesn't do a good job, or what if I don't get as much money from this as I'm hoping for? It's just, who am I if I'm not the top producer, or if I'm not the most experienced agent in my office that people come to for help? And so I think there's going to be a lot of people, and I've seen this happen too, where agents whose businesses I wanted to buy just were never going to sell. They're going to literally work until their 80s or later. I had one of my mentors, he was doing continuing ed and dying of cancer. And I was just like, part of me thought like that's the most optimistic thing, right? Because he's like, I'm going to beat this and I'm going to keep going. I think part of it was him not wanting to give up. But in my mind, I'm like, dude, you've already made tens of millions of dollars. You've been doing this 50 years. Go have fun. Just go play. But like for him, like doing deals was play. Like he was so good at it and he loved it so much. And also, you know, when you're good at it, you make a huge impact for other people, and that's incredibly rewarding. So the partial handoff lets someone like that who doesn't want to let go or who is concerned about how it will go kind of take you for a test drive basically and see how it works. And in a lot of cases, a new agent jumping in where the agent who's exiting is kind of phasing out, or they're not really putting in the work and they're not really gung-ho and they're kind of burned out, they can bring a lot of new life into that business and re-engage with clients that haven't been talked to in a long time and get them back to the table and rebuild those relationships and strengthen them.
100%. So when you look at all of these components, right, it's just like it makes so much sense to offer a solution to a problem. And then the partial handoff, I like that one because really what you're telling that person is dump everything you hate right now in this business. I mean, I talk to, agents that have been licensed for like 20, 30 years, and they're like, all the paperwork that they want us to do now if they don't have a transaction
Yeah.
coordinator, right? Paperwork changes, this changes. And I'm like, just dump it, right? Just dump it all over. It's all good. I'm like, we'll take care of that stuff. No problem. Might be you have a transaction coordinator that handles it. Might be that you are the one who is just gonna really like paperwork. Who knows? But you're offering them that out of like, I got you. I'm like, oh, I don't want to write a contract at 10 o'clock at night. I'm like, copy me in. We have it done. Don't worry. And it's like, wow, really? Like the test drive. And I think that's really a big one on the partial handoff.
It's huge. And you're describing exactly what it looks like for people, whether, I built a team to basically retire from certain jobs. So number one, you get a transaction coordinator. Number two, you get a buyer's agent because I want to have my weekends back, right? I don't want to have to work on the weekends. And then you start building in marketing coordinators. Then you get a listing broker. The last thing I was actively doing as a broker with my team was commercial real estate and investment real estate. And then we brought on two people to help just with that piece of the business eventually as it got bigger and bigger, because I didn't want to have to be on call, like you said, writing a contract at 10 o'clock at night or going to do an open house or touring properties at Sunday morning when I wanted to go be outside playing golf with my friends or doing something else. And so the way I like to describe it, if you're talking to a retired agent that you think isn't this kind of opportunity is, you've had this incredibly successful career. You really deserve to just do the stuff you love and let go of everything you don't want to do. But don't lose out on the opportunity just because you don't want to do it anymore. It's completely rational that you don't want to run around with first-time home buyers in the suburbs all weekend, every weekend till the day you die. That's okay. But don't say no to them. They still need someone that's good to help them. So if you don't want to build a team to then take over, which is a whole different conversation because it's very, very difficult to do that because you have people coming and going. And so working as like on the retiring side with a partial handoff is really basically teaming up without having to manage or take responsibility or risk with the team. So you're part of either a partnership of just two solo agents working together, which is still a team, or you're joining a much bigger team to get help with all those things you just mentioned, to have
Right.
a transaction coordinator, to have an assistant, to have someone, oh my gosh, I forgot to get that lockbox and it's going to take me an hour to drive over there to get it. And the buyer's agent's yelling at me because the buyer wants to repaint the door and the lockbox is on it. These are all real things that happen if you're in
It's me
business, right?
today.
Yeah. Why? Yeah. People, that
It
take
just
the sign
happened.
out the day
I
they
know.
move in and like throw it in the backyard. So there's all these things that you can provide a solution for someone who either wants to completely retire, which is the original golden handoff model, or to find ways to work together and streamline that process. And what was really interesting to me, I interviewed a lot of people for this new chapter and this new section because I just didn't want it to be my take on it and my experience. And so I interviewed a lot of people, and we included all those interviews in the book. And one of them mentioned this, but I think it'll come up a lot, is that once that partial agent started handing off clients and responsibility, in that retiring agent's mind, they thought, I'm going to work for another 5 years and then I'll eventually quit. But what happened was the adopting team did such a good job working with those clients, and they were getting so much income from referral fees that they decided to phase out completely a lot quicker than originally they said they wanted to, because, you know, their work and effort was creating this much income, but then the referral income was also creating this much. And so it's like, well, I don't want to keep grinding if I've got this, if you're comfortable that this is working and you have this income stream now that you can count on. And that's really, I think, a second reason why a lot of people are anxious about retiring is, if you're good at this job, it's incredibly lucrative. You can work as much as you want. You're not limited by, there's not a salary cap. You can work with, bigger properties. You can build a team and work with more clients. There's a lot of ways to grow a really successful business, because you're not on salary. You're not limited to, like, this is your salary, and if you do great, we might give you a bonus. It's your work
We'll see what
determines
happens on that end, I mean, that
Yeah.
is to be continued. But
Yeah.
let's talk about that opportunity, because this right now, what we are experiencing, I mean, we're in 2024, we are up in arms in the industry, and there is opportunity. And I mean, you're already seeing it, right? You have like pop-up masterminds, and everybody capitalizes on this as quickly as possible. So you have coaches starting to be like, buy my stuff and I can help you, and join my team, and
Right.
all of this stuff is happening right now. But talk about that opportunity that also comes for like individual agents, because I know everybody's always trying to recruit, right? And one of the reasons we started the hyperlocal agent independent of brokerages is because of just that, right? Pure information, and you never have to worry about us trying to like sway you to any side of where we're on. We're always like, let's try and find the opportunity. And the opportunity right now is, I think somebody called it, this is year 2007. This is year 2008, right? So this is your market crash, essentially. I mean, it sounds terrible, but what happens with it is it creates opportunities.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because people should be excited. They should be excited instead of fearful.
Yeah, I think, what I was taught early on, and I feel very grateful I started in 2006, because, I got into my first recession within 2 years. And it, for two reasons. I didn't have enough money saved up yet to get into trouble buying stuff I couldn't afford. And I learned how to grow a business through tough times. And if you look back in history of a lot of very successful businesses, a lot of them started during times of uncertainty. And this is certainly a time of uncertainty for real estate. I'm still totally confused why there needs to be a lawsuit about this, because at least in my market, there have been, flat fee and discount brokers the entire time I've been in business. They have kind of come and gone. In a good market, they pop up. When it gets difficult and you have to put in a lot of work to sell a property, they usually go away because they can't profit. So I still think there's a really strong case for, not every broker is the same, and variable commissions and things have been around my whole career, and I think that will remain the case, that people will want to get quality and are willing to pay for it. I just sold a house. I paid my broker the full fee. Happy to do it. Everyone always asks me, why don't you just do it yourself? It's like, because I don't want to do it. I want someone that's going to do great marketing. I want someone that's going to do the open houses, that's going to negotiate and really sell the house.
And the pulse on the market. I mean, a lot of people don't understand the pulse on the market that you need to have. Like, it's one of those things where if you write, like, I still get offers on my listing back from like 2021 market mentality, which is great for my sellers, right? We love that. But it clearly shows me that the person has not written an offer in the last 3 months when our market had slowed a little bit, because I'm like, there was no need to do all of this. But unless you have a pulse on the market, you don't know all of these little intricacies, because we don't report offers. We don't report what is being presented on the table. We don't report showing activities to, you know, the buyers. So without all of that intel, how do you present a good offer? You can't. You need somebody that's actually understanding everything that's happening, somebody that has written offers that were denied, right? So it's like, it's a whole bunch of, you need to have boots on the ground. I do have a question, which I think is going to be an interesting one. So a golden handoff, I think, is fairly easy within your brokerage. If you have, you know, a conversation with your manager, say, hey, if you hear about somebody within the company to retire, right, let me know. I would love to have a conversation. Easy enough. What if you were to say, I have somebody from a different brokerage, because there are so many brokerages at this point, right?
Yeah.
But I think their business would be a great acquisition for my business. How does something like that work in your mind?
So the model is set up to be agnostic of brokerage, kind of like what you're doing. You know, you don't have to be at a certain brokerage to benefit from it. The reality is, if you're going to do a partial handoff where you're co-listing, you have to make sure that the brokerages are willing to do an agreement to do that, because there's basically shared responsibility and shared liability. And some brokerages aren't willing to do that. That was one of the things that came up in my interviews with people who are doing partial handoffs. Practically what worked for us is people would generally join our team, move to our brokerage, and then basically I would charge them no brokerage fees whatsoever. So I could put someone on my team, and then I got to dictate whether or not they had to pay a portion of the team's collective desk fee to the company and expenses to the brokerage. So I was able to have a lot of control in that. So if you're going to do a partial handoff at different brokerages, you have to make sure that they're okay with you guys co-listing and working with buyers collectively. I think a lot of places are okay with that. Not everyone's going to be. The easiest thing is to just put the retiring agent on the team of the adopting agent, and then, you know, make sure your brokerage isn't charging a full desk fee for them, or that the team leader has control over how you account for that. Because I don't think you should be paying a full desk fee if you're not actively selling. And then the third option is that you go to a kind of a per deal brokerage where they're not collecting a desk fee, and, you know, again, make sure they're okay with co-marketing and working with buyers together, and the retiring agent goes to a shop like that. But usually it makes more sense just to join the team of the adopting agent, and then make sure that, you know, whether the team is paying a desk fee for that agent or not, that the retiring agent is not, once they're done selling. Like, if they're still active, I think that's fair, because they're still taking up resources and they're still out there in the market listing and working with buyers. So you can do it separately. It is easier to do it at the same company. Most of the businesses I bought were at the same brokerage because we were a pretty big shop, so there was a lot of people. But one of the best ones was not, and so they just moved their licenses to my brokerage that I was at, and they were under my team for the time we worked together.
Okay. So when I look at all of that, I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, to be honest with you. Like, I feel like we make it so complicated in our head of what really can happen.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people out there saying, I'm not going to be going through what's about to happen. I'm done. I'm good.
Oh,
So-
yeah, there's a lot. I think I kind of predicted this a long time ago, because I saw so many agents in my market who wanted to retire, but the market was just so good and it just kept going.
But then the rat race happened, and people are like, I'm tired of dropping and running the minute a house hits the market.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, yes, the market is good, but there was a whole bunch of sacrifice. I think we're going to see a whole bunch of burnout for people who are, and we have more and more people producing at a really high level very quickly, but it's the sustainability of making this. And like you said it earlier, we are lifestyle agents. We are not, you know, oh, it's a job. We literally sleep, breathe, eat real estate 7 days a week. Like you need to love what you do, and having this grind for 7 days a week, almost 24/7, because as long as I'm with this thing here,
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like I'm on the clock, right? So it's one of those things, I think, when we look at all of this, not only do you have to consider people that are, doing that for a long time, they don't want to change, but then also maybe agents who are saying, you know what, this was great. I made a lot of money, but man, my quality of life just went down, right?
Oh
So
yeah.
it's the other part of it that you can maybe look at is, who do you see struggling, to actually maintain a regular, and that's again where tools, systems, and processes come in place. When you build a foundation, and that's a big part of what we do inside the hyperlocal agent, building foundations, right? A
Yeah.
foundation where you can then go and grow your business exponentially, but it's not necessarily based on you doing all the things. It's based on you having a system at scale. That's a big part of what we do, right? At scale. Everything is at scale, because a one-to-one approach, it's hard. Yes, relationships are great, but one-to-one is something that I don't think is sustainable anymore. So for us, it's, we do a whole bunch of direct mail, one-to-many, doesn't make a difference if I send 5, 50, 500. We do email communication, 1 email, 2 emails, 5,000 emails, doesn't make a difference. And events, we actually have people come to us to events where we don't have to worry about, well, 1 person, 2 people, 300, 3,000, doesn't make a difference. So it's at scale in order to not burn out, because if you don't have anything in place, it's hard.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good advice. If you want to grow, you have to think of, what you'll need when you get where you want to be, not what you need today. Because you
Yeah.
don't want to have to rebuild your systems every time you hit a new level. You want to be able to kind of grow into them. And I don't mean hiring a ton of people before you have the work, but having the framework of knowing, when I get to this level, I'm going to need to invest in more staff, or I'm going to need to invest in different systems.
Yeah. See the, long term, and also like bringing people in. Is there like a minimum? I mean, you said about buying a business a couple of times at this point. You said, I bought a business. Do you actually give them a lump sum of money, or is this all based on, hey, we close the deal, you get paid if your license is in holding?
It's 100% paid on referral fees based
Yeah.
on what actually closes. So there's no risk. The risk when you're buying a business in this model is that it takes time and energy. And you have to, commit to a marketing plan. You have to commit to making phone calls, and you have to commit to engaging with people. It works really well. I would encourage everyone to do it. It would be highly unlikely that you would take over a database from an agent that would not produce. The only thing I would be wary of is, if you mentioned top producers, a lot of top producers are big teams that do high volume with lower fees and are mostly buying the leads and doing prospecting and marketing. And there's nothing wrong with that, but they don't necessarily have a good relationship with their clients. They're more transactional in a lot of cases. And so oftentimes the number 15 agent is going to have significantly more
Relationships.
relationships than the number 1 agent.
That is a really, really good piece of information, I think, if you
Yeah.
really think about that part. Individual agents too, if you look at teams versus individual agents, I do find, so I tried a team. I really have a hard time managing people. So I love tools because they literally do what they're supposed to do. But it's just interesting when you look at the relationship level, because you do need this endorsement to really skyrocket the referrals. Let's wrap it up with one last question. When you look at keeping the retiring agent up to date,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you don't want to just say like, hey, I'll take your business and then that's it. What does that look like?
So the easiest way to think about this is that retiring agent is now the best client referral source you've ever had, right? Because no one else is going to refer you 2, 3, 400 people, however many people they just referred you. So if you have 1 minute left in your day to do client touches, it should go to them. The way I've done it is I do a monthly update. We have a spreadsheet that says, here's all the clients we're talking to. I sold my residential portion of my business to a team 2 years ago. So I have access to the database. I can go into their team database. Luckily, we use the same one, but I have a different login. So I can log into their database, pull up the list of the clients that we're collectively, my clients that they're helping, and I can see when they've been emailed, called, if they've had appointments, those types of things. And there's a spreadsheet that says, this agent on the team is talking to this person, these people are in contract, these properties are listed, these buyers are in contract, or we're actively touring homes, or we've met with this list of people for listing their property. So I would say if you can create an access point for the database to just let people see whenever they want to log in and go, oh, cool, I can see that they've called my entire client list in the last month. Or they just did a event and invited everyone, and X number of people showed up. But I think for a lot of people that might be too complicated. Just a simple spreadsheet, or just a list, hey, here's our list of clients you've referred us that we're working with. So, buyers that are looking or in contract, and then, CMAs that have been completed, or listings that have been taken, and then, who's in escrow. So I think that doing a monthly update on those things is really good. And one last thought, like most of the time when I would get an appointment with a client that came from a business I had adopted, I was not competing. So I would say 95% of the time I would go to a buyer consult or a listing presentation, and they had no intention of interviewing someone else unless I didn't show up or I screwed up really bad. And obviously, if you're a professional, you're not going to forget to go to your listing appointment or follow
Did you
through.
forget to go to your listing appointment once?
No,
Just
no,
checking.
I had nightmares about that. I had nightmares that I would like take a listing and forget to market it when I was really busy. I would wake up sweating with nightmares about that. But
It's a
no,
lifestyle,
it is.
24/7. It's in your head.
I think that, yeah, just doing a monthly update at a minimum, and just being available, to stay in touch. I do like videos probably every 2 months with my team that is managing all those clients. We do like market updates and send that out to the database as a way to stay engaged and stay in touch, and just remind them that, the works team is calling them because they worked with me in the past. So I would say that's just treat someone like your best client, your best referral source, because that's what they really are. If someone's trusted you with all of their clients from their whole career. And but a monthly update goes a long way, just to letting people know what's going on and what to expect. And are they getting 2 checks this month, or 5 checks, or none? How many people are doing that? And the reverse too is maybe I need someone to put in a good word. Like, I have done 2 CMAs for this family. They haven't made a decision. Would you mind just calling and reiterating that you have a lot of confidence in me and that I'll do a good job, and that they should feel safe moving forward to work with me.
Absolutely. Well, I think you made it sound a whole lot easier than what I had in my head last time I read the book. I'm excited to see the updated chapter, so we'll have it attached as a PDF to this one. Again, thank you for the time. Thank you for the inspiration. And again, opportunity is now. I couldn't be more excited for this to stream right now, right this second. Because if somebody wants to take action, it's really the separation, right? It's like where you want your business to go. Either you're going to go out of business, and some of the people will, and that's supposed to happen. All of us complain we have way too many people licensed. I was actually just listening to somebody that said in Ontario, you have to go to school for 2 years before you become a real estate agent. 2 years. So I'm like, okay. So anyhow, we have this separation happening. And the question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to get trained? Are you going to have solutions? Or are you going to just, focus on the problem and complain about it and then go out of business? Again, the choice is yours, 100% yours. I've read the book. I'm going to reread the book. I actually have it with me because, going to Europe. And again, I think there's so much gold in there, literally golden handoff. Okay. So much gold in there. You will love it. And I hope this was the most helpful interview that you've watched all day, all week, all month, and probably all year. So Nick, thank you so much for your time, your expertise on this, and making it sound so doable.
Janine, I'm going to give you and everyone just one first step to take today. And so before you do anything else or get on your phone, write down the names of 3 agents whose businesses you would love to own one day, and reach out to those folks. Let them know that you heard about this. that you have a solution for them. The question to ask is, I've always admired your business and the career you've had in real estate, and I'm curious, what are your plans when you're done selling? Just write down the list of your agents whose businesses you want, ask that question, and you'll be well on your way.
Repeat that one more time, because I know I'm going to have the comments going crazy in a second.
Sure. Janine, I've watched your business and really admired everything you've done in your career, and I'm curious, what are your plans when you're done selling?
That's it, folks. So goldenhandoff.com, right?
That's it.
You have the scripts, you have the resources, you have everything. I'm going to link it all in the show notes on it. So again, if everything is given to you, the only thing standing between you and a growing business by 300, 400, 500 clients like that is you taking the action. Okay. We're not going to do that for you. So if you're saying, you know what, you're right, it's not going to be, up to Nick or up to Janine to make sure I'm going to close a deal. I have to go and do something. So look at the resources, get that task done. This is an easy task. Okay. You probably already thought about at least a person. And if you can't think about 3, start with 1. Okay.
I love it.
So thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Janine. Take care.